Who am I? Where am I? My name is Leon, or Liang. In the opened escape pod, a young man in a military uniform slowly opened his eyes full of confusion. His memory is like being covered by a layer of mist. It is clearly in front of him, but he can't see clearly. What's so good about this dead man? Wouldn't it be more convenient to just throw out the spaceship? A voice sounded not far from the escape capsule. What do you know? The boss has seen it. The battle suits on this escape pod and that guy are all antiques. The boss said that the escape pod should be left open for a period of time and wait for the low temperature inside to return to normal before the antique battle suits can be stripped off. That guy will be thrown into space at that time. Another voice replied. The young man in the escape pod heard the conversation between the two and was shocked. He was in a very bad state at this time. Although the person had woken up, his body was exposed to extremely high temperatures. This is a symptom of a high fever. He wanted to move his body. The extremely weak feeling made him feel that his body was not his own. Even if he was in a state of amnesia, he felt that his life was losing rapidly. I'm going to die. No, I don't want to die. At this moment, a reddish light flashed across his heart, and then the whole heart was covered with mysterious patterns, and a warm energy gushed out of his heart and flowed to his whole body. The tissues damaged by forcibly waking up from sleep in various parts of his body are recovering at an extremely fast speed. The hibernation of escape capsule adopts low-temperature hibernation. Low-temperature hibernation can put human vital signs at a low critical point. When humans are in low-temperature hibernation, there are few changes in their body, which is equivalent to an alternative to extend life. But the release of low-temperature dormancy is not like him. Opening the escape pod does not care. This is not saving people but murder. The warm energy lasts only for a few breaths, but the time for counting the breaths made him feel that his body is rejuvenated. He tried to move his fingers, then his palms, and finally he lifted his entire arm. There is no problem with both arms. He sat up with his hands propped up. Only then did he observe the surrounding environment. Where he is a rectangular metal object, underneath him is cold liquid, and he is sitting in the liquid now. The movement on his side was heard by the two guarding the escape pod. They arrived at the escape pod and saw the young man sitting in the escape pod. Your life is really hard, but no matter how hard it is, the boss said that he will throw you into space, and it will be useless for you to survive. The brawny man with a scar on his face said in surprise. There is still chaos in the young man's mind. He did not understand the meaning of the scar-faced man's words. Who am I? Am I Leon or Leon? He only knew what he didn't understand and wanted to ask people, so he asked. It seems that this guy's brain is broken, and he doesn't know who he is when he died. Another gentle-looking guy shook his head and said to the young man, You have an identity card with Leon written on it. Take a look. How nice I am to let you know your name before you die. Leave him alone, kill him now, take off his clothes and have a good relationship. The scarred man said impatiently. The scar-faced brawny man took out the self-defense gun from his waist, and was about to step forward, but was stopped by the gentleman. Kill him like this and spill the blood on the combat uniform. Will you or I wash it? The gentleman shook his head and said. You still think it is thoughtful, then pull him out and use a knife to solve it. The scar-faced brawny man thought about it, nodded and said yes. The scar-faced burly man stretched out his hand and pulled Leon out of the escape pod. It seemed that he had been dormant for too long. The weight of Leon in his hand was very light, especially the arm grasped by the hand, which can almost be used with a hand ring. Live. If this kind of thinness is not the same as Leon's body, it is most likely that dormancy will consume all the fat and water in Leon's body. The scar-faced man is also very strange in his heart. How Leon's physique can wake up from dormancy and sit up without using resuscitation drugs. Their previous estimate was that Leon would be able to wake up during the awakening process. Die. But it doesn't matter, it's just a little troublesome. The scar-faced strong man threw Leon on the ground. He was about to take out his dagger, only to find a dagger on the outside of Leon's calf. The dagger was inserted in the holster. It seems that this guy is ready for his death dagger capital. The scar-faced burly man laughed and stretched out his hand to grab the dagger stretched out of Leon's calf. Just when the scarred man's hand was about to touch the dagger, his action triggered Leon's instinctive reaction. The act of snatching a side weapon, for Leon's instinct, reading www.youcanshoot.com is second only to killing him. Leon's calf was retracted, letting go of the scar-faced brawny's movements, and the other leg threw it out and kicked on the scar-faced brawny's ankle. The scar-faced brawny who had been arched lost his balance and turned towards Leon. Fall down! Leon's hand touched his folded calf, and the dagger hidden in the holster appeared in his hand. The dagger showed a light blue light and swept towards the neck of the scar-faced burly man. This speed is not fast, but because the brawny scared man is in a state of imbalance, he can only watch his neck contact with the light blue blade with horror in his eyes. The cold touch and the subsequent loss of life make him short. The lifespan of a short period of 2 breaths was put on a stop sign. The gentleman saw the scar-faced brawny man being swept down by Leon. He was not anxious, but he laughed. In his opinion, the scar-faced brawny has lost his adult this time. It is estimated that the scar-faced brawny will not be able to shut him up if he doesn't ask him to have a good drink. Scar-faced brawny man is a face-saving guy, just like the scar on the scar-faced brawny's face. It is not incurable, but he just keeps this scar to show his bravery. This kind of person will never let the story of being overthrown by a dying person go out. The gentleman is very clear in his heart. Space and aviation are boring. The gentleman only has fun watching the show at the moment, and has no idea of going to help. But he soon discovered that something was wrong. He smelled blood, and at the same time, the scar-faced brawny fell to the ground, blood running across the filthy ground. The gentleman hurriedly pulled out the self-defense gun around his waist and looked in the direction of Leon, who was blocked by the burly man with the scarred face. He discovered that Leon had disappeared sometime, and his scalp was numb. He turned the muzzle of the self-defense gun in his hand, trying to find out where Leon is. This cabin is not too big, and besides the escape cabin a few meters away, it is almost empty. The gentleman's gaze swept across the cabin. He judged where Leon might be hiding, and there was only the escape cabin. He tightened the self-defense gun in his hand. In this case, only the self-defense gun in his hand could provide him with a sense of security, but he did not sound the alarm. Leon's physical condition is the reason why the gentleman wants to search for himself. From his perspective, the self-defense gun on the waist of the scar-faced burly man has not been lost, indicating that Leon does not have a gun in his hands. Just be careful, Leon is threatening. Little sex. If the gentleman raises the alarm at this time, his status in the team will drop a lot. 2 strong pirates who have experienced many battles can't solve a dying man without weapons. It doesn't matter if the scarred man is dead, but he will continue to mix in the team. I see you, come out, let me kill you honestly. The gentleman looked in the direction of the escape capsule, moved his steps carefully and said as he approached. He walked to the corpse of the scar-faced brawny man. Just as he was about to step over the corpse, a figure emerged from underneath the corpse, and a light blue light swept across. His hand holding the self-defense gun was silent and soundless. Drop! The gentleman let out a heart-piercing scream, and then he saw a man whose whole body was stained with blood standing in front of him. The gentleman was not as strong as he thought. When facing life and death, his first choice was to kneel on the ground with a plop. Please forgive me. Leon's eyes were no longer as sluggish as before, and now they became a kind of strangeness. When the gentleman saw Leon's gaze, the fear in his heart increased even more. He is very familiar with this kind of gaze. In the eyes of some powerful desperate pirates, he has seen the same gaze. This is a kind of indifference to life, which usually appears on people who kill people like hemp. Who am I? Leon's hand holding the light blue dagger swayed slightly. This was caused by his excessive physical exertion, but he did not kill the gentleman at the first time, but asked instead. Finding one's own identity is the most important thing in Leon's mind. Our spacecraft found your escape capsule, and the boss ordered the escape capsule to be recovered. Your name is Leon Miller on your ID card. We saved you, and I ask you to forgive me. The gentleman was scared. Speaking slowly, being killed by Leon, he replied in a trembling voice. Leon Miller. Leon repeated the name. There seemed to be a picture in his mind, but the picture was too chaotic to restore his memory. The gentleman has been observing Leon, and when he found that Leon's eyes were lost again, his eyes moved slightly. Especially the dagger that Leon placed in front of him was not stable, but was undulating up and down. The hand holding the dagger was almost covered in skin and bones, and the blood vessels were clearly visible. You can see Leon's weakness from Leon's hands. This situation is a great temptation for the gentleman. It seems that Leon in front of him will fall down with just a single blow. The gentleman resisted the pain in his wrist. He knew that if he didn't stop the bleeding in time and didn't need Leon to do it, he would die. A fierce spirit rose in his heart. Anyway, he is also a pirate with blood on his hands. When he sees an opportunity, he will not lack the courage to fight for his life. He rushed towards Leon, grabbing the wrist holding the light blue dagger with his remaining hand, and hitting Leon's body with the other hand. At the moment when the gentleman launched an attack, Leon felt the danger, his body was not controlled by his brain, and his hand holding a light blue dagger swept slightly, and the gentleman's neck was like a scarred man. The figure of the gentleman leaping forward stagnated, his eyes looking at Leon with doubts and anger. Maybe at this time he thought Leon was deliberate, but soon his vitality quickly lost his consciousness, and he finally looked at Leon's battle suit. I don't need to wash this antique combat suit. The gentleman died with the last thought. After the gentleman fell, Leon gasped heavily. He had just awakened from dormancy. Although there was a strange object at the heart that restored his body, this body has not been replenishing energy during dormancy. Leon's memory is not there, but his fighting instinct does not take the two strong men to heart. But because of physical strength, he still used tricks in the choice of battle, so that he could solve the two strong men with minimal physical consumption. Leon reached out and searched for the gentleman's body. He did not pick up the self-defense gun on the ground in the first time. His goal was food. This body was extremely short of energy intake. On the body of the gentleman, he found a tube of toothpaste-like objects. Reading www.uuganshu.com Salty Fast Food Nutrition Bar. This is the name on the toothpaste-like article. Leon knew instinctively that this was food. He cut one end of the salty fast food nutrition bar with a dagger in his hand, and pressed the juice inside his mouth. Fast food nutrition bar is a kind of meal replacement. The energy contained in such a fast food nutrition bar is enough for a normal person to consume for a day of heavy physical work. Leon's hunger is not alleviated because a tube of salty fast food nutrition bar enters the body, and his body is in a state of severe lack of nutrition. He came to the corpse of the scarred Brawny again. This time he had a good harvest. He found two fast food nutrition bars. They were different in taste, but the nutrition was the same. 3-tube fast food nutrition bar lower abdomen, his body can be considered to have eased. At this time, he picked up the self-defense gun that fell on the ground. The gentleman's hand was still on it. Leon took the palm of the gentleman off, and proficiently began to check the self-defense gun in his hand. Leon has a strange feeling. Although this kind of self-defense gun is extremely unfamiliar to him, he feels well aware of it after he uses it. He can easily remove the self-defense gun's magazine, disassemble the self-defense gun, and quickly restore the self-defense gun. The energy block of the self-defense gun is in a state of 90%, and there are 43 bullets in the magazine, all of which are extremely ordinary alloy bullets. The energy of the self-defense gun is provided by the energy block. The bullet is actually the warhead part, and the energy pushes the warhead out. Such a self-defense gun, within a range of 50 meters, is powerful enough to break through his combat uniform. Leon took the self-defense gun of the scarred man again. It was only then that he relaxed a little, and sat down without taking into account the dirt on the ground. Leon inserted the light blue dagger back into the holster of his calf and checked himself. Apart from a set of combat uniforms, it was an identity card that was dragged outside of the uniform. The identity card lost energy due to too long time. Only the words Leon Miller were clearly engraved in the lower right corner. Did not disappear because of lack of energy. Is this my name? Leon shook his head vigorously, but the memory in his mind was still blurred. But he can be sure that his memory has not disappeared, because all the memories are waiting for him to discover after that blur. He tucked the ID card back into the collar. This ID card needs to be recharged, and there are no conditions for recharging in the room. Rested for a while, Leon's strength recovered a little. He got up and walked to the door. He didn't see the lock of this door, but the door could not be opened. He hesitated. Although the door seemed impossible to open, he felt that as long as he wanted to, he could open it. But the most important thing for him now is to recover more physical strength. It should be very dangerous outside the door. Only sufficient physical strength can make him survive the danger. Leon sat back next to the escape pod, blocked his body with the escape pod, and then closed his eyes and went to sleep. It's hard to imagine what kind of experience would enable him to sleep quickly after killing 2 people in a row. This powerful mental ability is beyond the cognition of ordinary people. Leon did it very naturally. This is the same as his killing just now, which is instinct towards the body. Before his memory was restored, his body knew how to survive better. To be honest, the scarred brawny and the gentleman are not as important as they thought. They did not show up in a day, and no one came to them. Leon slept very peacefully this time. After slept for nearly 20 hours, his spirit has been obviously restored. His body also recovered some physical strength. Of course, this kind of recovery is still very limited. With the energy of the 3-tube fast food nutrition bar, it is impossible to make up for the deficit in the body. Leon still didn't move. His instinct told him that the longer the delay, the better for him. In order to reduce physical consumption, he leaned against the escape capsule. Just 24 hours later, a red light appeared on his heart again, a strange pattern appeared on his heart, and a warm energy flowed throughout his body. This warm energy is like water introduced into a dry field, nourishing every part of his body. After a few short breaths, his weak body swelled in a circle. Although he was still thin, he had recovered some strong breath, and the muscles under his clothes began to bulge. Leon stood up, he got the result he wanted, and his body recovered a small part. He walked to the gate, and the next step was to deal with the enemies who wanted him to die. Just then, the door made a sound, and then the door opened. "What are you two doing? Why the matter hasn't been over, and you don't answer the communication, the boss is already angry." A person came in from the door, chatting naggingly. Only when he walked into the room, he saw the stranger standing in front of him who was covered with blood and could barely see his face, and 2 pirates lying backwards behind the stranger. "Help!" The person was about to yell, but as soon as he uttered his voice, he was hit by Leon's self-defense gun. Leon walked to the corpse and expertly searched out 2 tubes of fast food nutrition bars. It was obvious that the people here were relying on this stuff to satisfy their hunger. Poured 2 tubes of fast food nutrition bars into his mouth and walked out the door. Outside the gate is a passage about 3 meters wide. 4 people are coming from the other side of the left side of the passage. The eyes of the 4 people happened to see Leon. On the right side of the passage, there are 2 people with their backs to Leon. Leon did not move his body, and the self-defense gun in his hand was fired continuously. First, he shot and killed the 4 people on the left, then turned and shot the two people on the right. The whole process was smooth and flowing. The four pirates on the left were ready to pull out their weapons when they found Leon, but until all four were shot, none of them successfully pulled out their weapons, which shows how fast Leon was shooting. After hearing the gunshots behind them, the two people on the right first looked back and then tried to draw out the weapon. When the same hand touched the weapon, they were also hit by the bullet. The battle started and ended instantly. A brief exchange of fire was photographed by the monitoring of the passage. The spacecraft's brains analyzed Leon, who was not registered in the spacecraft's list, and analyzed that Leon's danger level was extremely high. The piercing siren sounded in the spacecraft, and all the pirates were notified by G-Brain. An intruder was found in the D1012 area, and 6 crew members have been killed in the passageway in the area. The danger level is 4. Hineo's mechanical sounds sounded around the spacecraft, letting the pirates know the seriousness of the incident. After hearing the harsh alarm, Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com seemed to fall into a certain scene in his brain. His eyes were no longer solemn, but turned into a red color. He no longer walks slowly, but dashes in strides. The door on the side of the passage opened. As soon as a full-armed pirate shot his head, Leon shot his head. During the whole process, Leon only saw the pirate with his peripheral vision, and even Leon was running at no speed. Any changes? Leon running in the passage is like a butcher, these usually fierce pirates, as long as they are met by him, the end will be death. Where did the intruder come from? The bearded Captain Manuel, who is also the boss of this group of pirates, asked loudly while facing the light curtain. On the light curtain in front of him, a video of Leon rushing out into the passage to start the massacre was being broadcast. When Captain Manuel saw the familiar combat uniform on the intruder, he was startled. At this time, he knew who the intruder was. The reason why Captain Manuel sent 2 pirates to take off Leon's combat uniforms completely was because he recognized the origin of the combat uniforms. There are very few antique combat uniforms, and most of them are in the hands of some collectors. There is also the escape pod. Although he does not know the origin, he knows the material. The material of the escape pod is made of extremely precious alloys. Not to mention the value of antiques, the alloy materials themselves are very expensive. The escape capsule was discovered from space, and Captain Manuel thought it was a big deal, which is equivalent to a big gain. But I didn't expect that the dormant who thought he was going to die had become the killer star, slaughtering his pirates. Boss, do you block the passage ahead? If you don't block it, this person will enter the sea area. The chief officer on the side asked aloud. Leon's eyes were red, and his heart was full of killing intent. This killing intent was not because the pirate on the spaceship wanted to kill him, but to regain his memory. In his feelings, it seems that he is a person who is naturally accustomed to killing. Otherwise, how could he be so proficient whether he uses a dagger or a self-defense gun? Especially when facing a group of enemies holding various weapons, he only regards them as a group of sheep. Because the spacecraft's Hineo issued an alarm, all the hatches on both sides of the passage were opened. In order to kill more, Leon cleaned every compartment. Sensitive perception allows him to know where the hidden enemies in the cabin are as long as he enters the cabin. Even if an enemy shoots first, Leon will sense it in advance and make a counterattack. Boss, please, open the door. Brother inside, open the door. You can't throw us out like this. The sound of crying, begging, and the sound of tapping the isolation door echoed in the passage. Accompanied by these sounds are the gunshots from time to time in a place not visible on the other side of the passage. Different from the burst sound of assault guns, submachine guns, and other weapons, the sound of self-defense guns is short and relatively weak. The pirates at the isolation gate can clearly hear that every firefight ends with the sound of a self-defense gun, and the fighting frequency of the self-defense gun is too fast. Just relying on the sound of self-defense guns, you can tell that the devil is approaching here quickly. These pirates also boast that they are not afraid of death, but when they really face an invincible enemy, especially when they are waiting for death, the fear and timidity in their hearts cannot be stopped. The self-defense guns stopped, and the pirates looked in the direction of the passage. They hoped that the devil was dead. Maybe it is really possible, no ordinary person can face so many pirates holding weapons at the same time and have been victorious, and the pirates did not dare to go back and check. Leon was standing in front of the light brain in a cabin. The cabin in Area B was originally a room with status among pirates. Guangbrao does not mean that you can use it if you want to use it. It requires certain permissions to be able to use it. I don't know if the pirate in this cabin was using the light brain when he received the alarm, and he left the cabin without turning off the light brain. This gave Leon a chance. When he saw the light brain, Leon instinctively came to the light brain and input his fingers on the light curtain. 2 self-defense guns were put aside by him, the fingers of his hands almost turned into afterimages, and a string of codes appeared on the light curtain. Warning, Zhinao is under attack, warning, Zhinao is under attack. Zhinao's voice sounded in Area A where Captain Manuel was, and the voice became slower and slower, as if the voice had been prolonged. Triangle, hurry up and help the brain. Captain Manuel turned his head and commanded loudly to a triangular-eyed pirate. Triangle is a technician on the spacecraft. He is staring at the light curtain in front of him at this time. On the light curtain is a bold red word, "You have no right to visit." This means that the other party had cancelled his authority as early as the attack. Although the triangle technology is good, it is also relative to ordinary pirates. Even the brains can't deal with the enemy, what can he do? Captain Manuel also found trouble at this time, and his authority to operate the spacecraft was also cancelled. The light curtain in front of him also reads "You don't have permission to visit." Ready to fight? Captain Manuel exclaimed. The heavy machine guns and the assault guns deployed long ago did not give the pirates in Area A sense of security. It can't be them, didn't they disappear long ago? Captain Manuel thought of a possibility, but he immediately shook his head and vetoed it. Captain Manuel guessed Leon's identity from Leon's battle uniform and the special mark on his rank, but that identity was cancelled a long time ago. But Captain Manuel couldn't understand, besides the legendary them, who else possesses such combat power? Captain Manuel can be sure that Leon is not a star warrior with extraordinary strength. If he is a star warrior, even if Leon is dormant, he will treat him with courtesy. Besides, Leon's fighting style is fundamentally different from that of the Star Warrior. The Star Warrior's battle relies on himself, while Leon uses a self-defense gun. Star Warriors hardly use this kind of firearms. Besides, pirates like them don't have to fight at all if they encounter a powerful Star Warrior. As long as the Star Warriors say their identity, they can only surrender. Who did the boss say about them? The chief mate on the side heard Captain Manuel's words and couldn't help asking. Just when Captain Manuel was about to speak, the sirens and flashing lights on the spacecraft suddenly returned to normal. Captain Manuel looked extremely ugly. There is only one possibility in this situation, and that is that the spacecraft's brain was successfully invaded. UU reading www.ukansha.com. Sure enough, the isolation doors between A and B areas rose slowly. Victory! No need to die. The remaining pirates in Area B, ignorantly thinking that the intruder had been wiped out, cheered in front of the isolation door that was about to be opened. Shoot! Captain Manuel ordered in a deep voice. Following his order, the heavy machine gun fired first. Thousands of bullets per second turned into a net woven by the of death. The cheering pirates standing in the passage, some of them were hit by heavy machine gun bullets before they understood what had happened. Other pirates instinctively took up their weapons and fought back inside. Just as the other assault rifles in Area A were fired at the same time, this kind of resistance seemed weak. There is only one lucky pirate in the passage. Because he is on the edge of the passage, there is a main structure beam as a cover, and he was not killed by this round of attacks. But the pirate was shot in the leg, and one leg was almost beaten in two. "Why? Boss, why are you killing us?" the pirate yelled frantically, yelling out the pain in his leg and the unwillingness in his heart. "Throw a plasma grenade and give him a ride," Captain Manuel ordered to the first officer. "The pirates cannot be allowed to bark. At this time, the military can't be confused, and there are even more terrifying enemies waiting for them." The first officer nodded, took the plasma grenade from the side, pulled out the insurance and threw it out. The destructive power of plasma grenade is a fixed radius of 3 meters. This kind of grenade is extremely beneficial to a narrow battlefield. Especially in the battle inside the spacecraft, the principle is to minimize the damage to the spacecraft. Because no matter who wins, the spacecraft is needed to survive, otherwise, once the spacecraft is destroyed, the result will all fall into space. The plasma grenade flew out through an arc. The first officer's bombing level was very good, which is why Captain Manuel appointed him. When the plasma grenade flew to a high point, 2 self-defense gunshots came. Faster than the gunfire, the 2 bullets hit the plasma grenade at the same time. If it is another powerful weapon, perhaps the plasma grenade will be penetrated and explode directly in the air. But the power of the self-defense gun is limited, and the 2 bullets deliberately avoided the important position of the plasma grenade. Plasma grenade received the reverse thrust of 2 bullets, not only stopped the forward flight, but was knocked back and flew back. "Hidden!" Captain Manuel and the first officer exclaimed at the same time. They rolled away for the first time, but the pirates operating the heavy machine guns, and some other pirates, had no response at all, and only saw the plasma grenade flying back into the middle of the pirate group. The scorching white electric light instantly flooded the pirate group, and Area A fell into silence. Leon's figure appeared in the passage, and the self-defense gun in his hand raised lightly, killing the pirate with his thigh wounded in the passage. He walked towards Area A step by step, stepping on the blood with his combat boots, making a creepy rhythmic tap. This voice heard in the ears of Captain Manuel and the first officer, as if death was approaching step by step. "Can we talk?" Captain Manuel hid behind the console, trying to hide his body, not to show himself even a little, he shouted. After watching Leon's battle video, Captain Manuel never thought that with his own combat power, he could fight a terrible opponent like Leon. Now all his men are dead, and he and the first officer have no chance of winning. "Who am I?" Leon asked as he walked with his feet on the ground. When Captain Manuel heard this question, he was spitting out in his heart. How did he know who Leon was, but he couldn't help but answer. The answer may still have a ray of life in the hands of this of death. "If you don't answer, you will die." "My lord, judging from the combat uniform you wear and your military rank, both the combat uniform and military rank are the equipment of professional soldiers. You may be a professional soldier," Captain Manuel replied. Leon's brows frowned, his memory was missing, but he instinctively felt that Captain Manuel was not speaking truthfully. It is strange that he has a natural intimacy with the name of the professional soldier. "Professional soldiers," Leon repeated softly. The crimson in his eyes disappeared, and the murderous intent on his body was also receding. Captain Manuel only felt the pressure on his whole body lighten, and the feeling of facing a demon was also weakening. "I've survived." Captain Manuel let out a long sigh of relief, and secretly rejoiced. The killing intent disappeared, indicating that Leon didn't want to kill anymore. But just when Captain Manuel thought he was alive, the first officer beside him found an opportunity, holding the assault rifle in his hand and preparing to shoot. "No!" Captain Manuel reached out to stop. Before he could finish speaking, a self-defense gun sounded, and the first officer's body fell heavily to the ground. The first officer's eyes were filled with unwillingness, and a blood hole in the center of the eyebrows was flowing out of red and white objects. Then Captain Manuel saw Leon standing in front of him. The red eyes that had just faded away were now red again. Captain Manuel wanted to beg for mercy, but Leon did not give him another chance. After a shot, Captain Manuel fell beside the first mate. His eyes were fixed on the first mate's face. Until the last moment of his life, what he hated most in his heart was not Leon, but the ignorant first mate. Leon sat in the position of the captain. He placed the identity card on the console in front of him and operated with his fingers on the light curtain. Identity cards begin to recharge. This kind of military identity cards have the function of absorbing all kinds of energy autonomously. It's just that in the environment of the escape capsule, there is no shining from stars, no other light sources and energy sources, so that the identity card cannot absorb energy autonomously. When the identity card is charged, its internal self-absorption energy function is turned on, and the words "System Restart" appear on the identity card. Leon looked at the identity card. If the memory has not been retrieved, then this identity card is the only evidence that he understands himself. The identification card showed the words "restarting successfully," and Leon flipped through the information on the identification card with his fingers. Identity card comes with a small display function, which displays the basic information of Leon. Leon Miller occupation, professional soldiers affiliation, 515 students of Chaon Star Wars Academy military rank, Lieutenant of Professional War Soldier birthday, May 10, 19,001 Very simple message, let Leon understand his identity, he is a professional soldier, a lieutenant and a student. In the case that the memory has not been restored, these identities make it impossible for him to judge the authenticity of the identity card content. He patted his head vigorously. This way he can get rid of the chaotic thoughts. Leon has extraordinary fighting instincts. This kind of fighting instinct is very comprehensive. He ranges from daggers to self-defense guns to the use of light brains to invade the brains. These are all when he comes into contact with these. It can be done naturally after the item. Judging from this, the probability that he is a soldier is very high. It's a pity that the killing didn't restore his memory. The memory in his brain was clearly in front of him, but he just couldn't grasp it. Leon began to look at the contents of G Brain. From G Brain, he knew the origin of the spacecraft, which was an armed pirate spacecraft. Of course, he cannot control the two Gauss cannons of the spacecraft now. It is not possible for one person to manipulate the Gauss cannons. At least this spacecraft does not have that kind of high-level intellectual brain. Similarly, if you want to control this spacecraft to sail in space, you also need the cooperation of at least 15 crew members. Leon only discovered at this time that his killing had once again trapped him in space. Intelligent brain, send an emergency signal for help. Leon commanded in a deep voice. Yes, we are continuing to send out emergency help signals on public channels. Leon was about to get up, but found a display on the light curtain, and he couldn't help but stay in a daze. G Brain, tell me the exact date today. Leon asked again. Today is March 1st, 19525. G now gave the accurate time. How could this be? Leon took out his identity card, looked at the time on it, and muttered. On the identity card, his birth year is 199,001, and now it is 19,525, which is a difference of 524 years. If the identity card is correct and the brain is correct, then his age will be 524 years old. Even if his memory is missing, he knows that human life cannot reach more than 500 years. The RAND is a medium-sized exploration spacecraft whose purpose is to develop new safe passages in unknown areas of space. In addition, discover new resource stars and even administrative stars are incidental tasks of the RAND. The space area where the RAND is currently located is an undeveloped space area by the government. The RAND is scanning the data of this starry sky into its own brains, and these data will become part of the government's space star chart after returning. The distress signal is found on the public channel, the coordinates are 96 degree, 30 degrees, 16,000. Eva's voice sounded. Turn on high power scanning to determine the target location. Captain Anselm ordered in a deep voice. With the energy refill, the RAND's maximum power scanning device began to work. The target is found. The target has a second level of danger, and it is an illegal armed spacecraft. The comparison result of the hull number and the database determines that it is a pirate spacecraft. The pirate spacecraft is currently floating and there is no sign of weapon charging. Hineo Eva reported the scan results. The RAND is a medium-sized exploration spacecraft without external weapons. Under normal circumstances, Captain Anselm will not take the initiative to approach this type of pirate spacecraft with a second-level danger level. Regardless of why the pirate spacecraft sends out a distress signal, it does not mention that the pirate spacecraft is illegally equipped with external weapons. Even the pirates inside the pirate spacecraft cannot be handled by the crew on the RAND. But this time it was different. There was a background combat commander on the RAND, and a smile appeared on Captain Anselm's face when he thought of this. "Combat Commander Claire, please come to the control room." Captain Anselm opened the communication and said. Soon, the Claire combat commander, wearing a women's combat uniform and having a pair of long legs, entered the control room. "Report to Captain Anselm, Commander Claire is here." Commander Claire saluted. Captain Anselm shook his head helplessly. If possible, he definitely did not want a young girl like Claire to board the RAND and become a very important battle commander of the RAND. But because of Claire's background and the accompanying bodyguards she brought, Captain Anselm couldn't refuse. "Combat Commander Claire, there is a distressed spacecraft ahead, with a second level of danger, and you need to check it out." Captain Anselm also ordered. "Yes, Captain Anselm." The Battle Commander Claire was surprised and quickly agreed. The Battle Commander Claire has always disliked the boringness of this mission. She worked very hard to complete the job of the Battle Commander, but the work in this voyage was a trivial matter for patrol inspection. Finally encountered a big event, which made her full of energy. That is a pirate ship. Although the two main guns are not charged, the pirates inside are still very dangerous. "Please ask Lucian Stars to go with you. Don't be careless." Captain Anselm reminded in a low voice. "I can do it alone." Claire's battle commander patted the self-defense gun on his waist and replied. "If you don't notify Stars Lucian, then I will notify you, otherwise I won't allow you to board the pirate ship alone." Captain Anselm said in a deep voice. The RAND is only a medium-sized exploration spacecraft. In addition to the necessary crew, it is also a researcher. The only one who is truly a combatant is the Claire combat commander. As for the Lucian Stars, they are not a member of the RAND, and Captain Anselm cannot afford to invite a powerful star to join the RAND. "Well, I'll call Uncle Lucian." Claire's battle commander replied helplessly. The scanning device of the RAND is always keeping an eye on the state of the pirate spacecraft to prevent any changes in the pirate spacecraft, especially whether the two gauze cannons are abnormal. The hatch of the RAND opened, and the small spacecraft Seeker 1 flew out of it and flew in the direction of the pirate spacecraft. In the small spacecraft Searcher 1, in addition to the battle commander Claire, there is one person and one giant wolf. The person is the Lucian Stars mentioned by Captain Anselm, and the giant wolf is his combat partner. Leon saw the approaching small spacecraft through the video sent by G-Brain. He opened the hatch of the pirate spacecraft to facilitate the entry of the small spacecraft. The battle commander Claire breathed a sigh of relief when he saw the hatch of the pirate ship open. Although it is said that Lucian Stars will follow to protect her, she does not want to encounter a space battle. As long as it can enter the interior of the pirate spacecraft, then no matter what happens, Lucian Stars can easily solve it. The battle commander Claire leaves the small spaceship. She is wearing a space combat suit. This space combat suit can operate in space. This is also a precautionary situation. She holds the life detector in her hand. In addition to the life signals of herself, the Lucian Stars, and the giant wolf, it is a life signal in the control cabin. Lucian Stars did not speak. His task was to protect Claire's battle commander. He would not ask how Claire behaved. He would not intervene as long as he was not in danger. When the Claire combat commander walked to the entrance hatch, he found that the hatch opened automatically. After entering the main passage, her face suddenly changed. Looking around, in the passage where the line of sight is, there are several corpses at intervals. As a combat commander who has just joined work, she has not seen as many corpses since she was born until now. Claire Battle Commander forcibly resisted the discomfort in his heart, and muttered in his heart, "I am the Battle Commander." She didn't want to let the crew on the Rand watch her jokes, nor did she want to disappoint the Lucian Star. Lucian Star Warrior frowned. The battle here is fierce, and the shooter's marksmanship is extremely terrifying, and the location of every bullet point is critical. 2 people and a giant wolf walked all the way and came to the forefront of the pirate spacecraft, where the control room was also located. Leon had already been here waiting for them. He was ready to be rescued. His escape pod was moved here. Except for the escape pod and his belongings, he didn't expect to take away the items. Even 2 self-defense guns, he threw aside, not wanting the rescuers to cause any misunderstanding. The battle commander Claire entered the control room and saw Leon, who opened his hands and showed that he was not threatening. If Leon was not covered with blood and his battle uniform was soaked black with blood, then it would be more convincing. But the battle commander Claire doesn't care, she is confident that Lucian Stars will follow. Leon saw the giant wolf, his whole body muscles were tense, because he sensed the threat from the giant wolf. This threat almost made his fighting instinct out of control. According to safety regulations, both the escape capsule and Leon must enter the inspection room of the Rand and go through multiple inspection waves to confirm safety. This inspection room can find both known and unknown space hazardous materials. As long as the hazardous materials exceed a certain index, they will be found. Hidden creatures can also be found. This is for the safety of the spacecraft. There have been too many cases of intrusion by dangerous materials and creatures in space in history. Coupled with the unfamiliar space environment, Anselm, as the captain, has to be cautious. This is related to the safety of everyone on board the Rand. No dangerous substances, no human life, no weapons. Eva sent the inspection result, which also made Captain Anselm relieved. Medical Officer Albin, take a detailed examination of Mr. Leon's body. Captain Anselm listened to the report from the battle commander Claire, and then ordered Medical Officer Albin. After thinking about it, he said, "Mr. Responsible to Claire Battle Commander. At Captain Anselm, Leon is very dangerous. One person kills the pirates on the ship, although it is to protect himself, but this method is too terrifying. Only the Claire Combat Commander can monitor Leon throughout the entire process to ensure the safety of the Rand." Leon was brought directly to the medical room by the battle commander Claire, where Medical Officer Albin had been waiting. "Mr. Leon, I need to perform a medical-grade scan of your whole body. As far as I know you have amnesia, the scan results may be beneficial to your amnesia." Medical Officer Albin said to Leon with a smile. "How do I need to cooperate?" Leon asked very cooperatively when he heard the effect on the treatment of amnesia. "Please lie flat on the treatment table." Medical Officer Albin pointed to the treatment table. Leon did not hesitate, he immediately lay on the treatment table. The battle commander Claire was a little surprised. She thought Leon's amnesia was fake, but from the perspective of Leon's performance at this time, it didn't look like a fake. The medical officer Albin had already operated the equipment on the treatment table, and various scanning waves swept across Leon's body. Leon felt that the scanning wave swept across his chest, his heart couldn't help but feel nervous. He didn't know if this medical-grade scanning device would discover the peculiarity of his heart. His body can recover in a short time. The biggest effect is not the energy provided by those fast food nutrition bars, but the warm energy emitted by the heart at a fixed time every day. But obviously Leon's worries were superfluous, and the scanning wave swept across his chest and found nothing special. This also gave him a lot of peace of mind. If he was discovered that the heart was peculiar, he was worried about whether he would become a research product. You must know that there are the terrifying Lucian stars and the giant wolf Alpha on the Rand. Although Leon trusts his fighting instinct very much, he knows clearly in his heart that he will never be Lucian stars and giant wolf Alpha. An extraordinary opponent like wolf Alpha. Mr. Leon, your brainwaves are a bit disordered. This may be the cause of your amnesia, but from all the signs, your brainwave disorder is slowly getting better. I believe it will not take long for your memory to recover. The medical officer Albin looked at the results of the examination and said to Leon with a smile. Medical officer Albin, I don't know how long it will take to restore the memory. Leon asked. He doesn't like the current state of being hazy. Without memory, he acts on instinct. In this state, he is worried that he will do things beyond his control. The brain is the most complicated organ. It is impossible to give an accurate time with these devices, but based on my experience, it will take about 2 months to half a year. Medical Officer Albin replied with a smile. Thank you. Leon thanked. He also had a bottom in his heart. Even if the military cannot give his true identity, he will recover on his own after a while. This is good news. I'll give you some medicine, which is good for smoothing your brain waves. Medical Officer Albin said while operating on the light curtain. Leon took medication and moved into a separate cabin with a bathroom, and his handcuffs were replaced with trackers attached to his wrists. Except for the bathroom, all other places are under surveillance, which was also informed by the Commander Claire in advance. Leon went to the bathroom, took off all his combat clothes and underwear, and saw his body in the mirror. In the 5 days that he sent out the distress signal on the pirate spacecraft to wait for rescue, he also went through 5 times of baptisms of heartwarming energy, which fully recovered his body. Is shown in the mirror at this time, his body is like a sensitive cheetah, full of speed and explosive power. There are no scars on the surface of his body, which makes him a little strange, like his fighting instinct, which requires a lot of high-intensity training, maybe even a life and death battle. Read www.UU How can calm appear without a scar on the body? Is it a perfectionist who keeps doing skin beautification so that I don't have any scars on my body? Shook his head and put aside these thoughts. He washed his body with water and put on a set of spare crew clothes. He also put all his clothes in the washing machine. For him, these clothes are still one of the very important identifications. Leon felt a little drowsy after washing up. This is because the medicine given by the medical officer of Albin contains sleep-promoting ingredients. He took the medicine as soon as he came back, and the effect of the medicine came into being. In a safe environment, he fell on the bed with confidence, and soon fell asleep. The battle commander Claire took a set meal from the cafeteria and prepared it to give it to Leon. Unlike the pirate spacecraft with difficult conditions, there are not many staff on the Rand, and the welfare benefits on the spacecraft are also very good. The staff of the Rand can eat the cultivated food every meal, not the fast food nutrition bar that can only satisfy the hunger. The battle commander Claire has a very good heart, and Captain Anselm asked her to take charge of Leon's affairs. She wanted to do her best, not to make Leon hungry. Leon can't leave the cabin, and she doesn't want to use nutrition bars to dispose of Leon's 3 meals a day in a way that she thinks is inhumane. Eva, open the door. Claire Battle Commander came to the door and said to the top of the door. Leon is under constant surveillance of Eva's Hineo. This cabin is a special cabin, and only Eva's Hineo can open it. The hatch opened, and the Battle Commander Claire walked into the cabin and saw Leon, who was already asleep. Under the lights in the cabin, Leon's clean face showed a peculiar temperament. The Leon that Claire Battle Commander first saw was Leon after a long period of dormancy and battle with pirate ships. Leon was covered with stains at the time. After Leon washed the stains, his skin was as smooth as jade under the light, and his face had soft lines. In the eyes of the Battle Commander Claire, he would not be more than 20 years old. Claire Battle Commander could not imagine that it was Leon at such an age that killed all the pirates on a pirate ship. Seeing Leon still asleep, she gently placed the dinner plate in her hand on the table and was about to leave. But she thought about it again. Leon had been on the rand for a long time, and he must have been hungry too. It would be better to wake Leon and sleep after eating. Thinking of this, the battle commander Claire walked to Leon and was about to push Leon's shoulder. Leon, who was sleeping, suddenly shrank when the palm of the battle commander Claire was about to fall on his shoulder, and then his hand grabbed the hand extended by the battle commander Claire. Used force, anti-knuckles, and grabbed Claire's battle commander's neck with the other hand. The battle commander Claire did not expect Leon's reaction to be so intense. She was a little dazed for a while, but she reacted quickly. "I am Claire." Stopped when Leon's hand was 1 millimeter from Claire's battle commander's neck. The battle commander Claire was sweating all over, because she felt the breath of death. Just now, Leon, who was sleeping, turned into a vicious tiger, and hunted her with an extremely strong killing intent. If she called out later, she might have been killed by Leon. Leon also awoke. He silently let go of Claire's battle commander, and withdrew his hand. The battle commander Claire felt that she was particularly stupid. She thought of what the instructor said during the training. Don't rush to approach the person returning from the battlefield. It is very likely to trigger the opponent's stress response and put yourself in danger. Middle. Amnesia like Leon, can still easily slaughter a group of pirates, but it is more dangerous than the kind of people the instructor said. Combat Commander Claire, I'm sorry. Leon said in a deep voice. Leon didn't know how to control his body. The action of Claire's battle commander approaching him made him involuntarily make a counterattack. At that time, his brain was still not awake, and everything was controlled by combat instinct. In fact, if it weren't for the sleep-promoting ingredients in the medicine Albin medical officer gave him, he would have been alert when Commander Claire came in. I was a little bit reckless, I brought you food. Claire battle commander calmed down his tone as much as possible. She is not a weak person, she has received formal military training, and her instructors give her extremely high evaluations. Although she is not very old, she won the position of battle commander of the Rand partly because of her background, but if she is not capable, she cannot obtain such an important position. She never thought that she would not even have the strength to fight back in front of Leon. In her mind, she guessed who Leon was before. Anyway, except that it was impossible for professional soldiers, she guessed that Leon might be a member of the special department of the army. As for why Leon can't be a professional soldier, no matter how much evidence Leon has, the professional soldier is a unit of 500 years ago. She doesn't believe that Leon, who is about 20 years old, has survived more than 500 years. After more than 10 days after this incident, the Commander Claire stopped coming at other times except for delivering food to Leon on time every day. On this day, the Commander Claire came to Leon's cabin at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. "Mr. Leon, please sit on the safety chair." 10 minutes later, the Rand will enter the jump mode. Claire's battle commander pointed to the safety chair and said, "Jump mode." Leon thought of the word in his mind. He was quite sure that he was very unfamiliar with this jump mode. Although he has lost his memory, he still knows some basic knowledge, but he can't remember it. As long as he knows the corresponding name, he will feel familiar. Is like the tracker on your hand, like all kinds of equipment in the spacecraft. Thought in his heart, he sat on the safety chair. Claire's battle commander stretched out his hand and pressed it on the chair, and the seat belt stretched out from the back of the chair to fix him on the chair. The battle commander Claire also sat down on the chair next to him, and at the same time fixed himself on the chair, preparing to enter the space and jump. This mission of the Rand was ended a few days ago, and the Rand will return to Tempe through the jumping point. Claire battle commander explained to Leon. While she was speaking, her gaze was fixed on Leon's face. Yu reading www.uukavenchu.com seemed to want to see something. You must know whether it's the jumping mode or the Tempest star only in the last few hundred years. According to her desire to come to Leon, the escape pod can fly so far, it is almost impossible not to pass the jumping point. But let the battle commander Claire disappointed, Leon did not have a special look on his face, more a little doubtful. Leon's doubt was that he added another unfamiliar name. He also couldn't feel familiar with the planet Temp star. It seemed that there was no information about this planet in his memory hidden in the mist. A few minutes later, the lights on the Rand flickered, and there was a warning sound from Eva Brain. Attention, there is 1 minute to enter the jumping point. Everyone on the Rand was ready to tie themselves to the safety chair, and the scattered objects were also put into the storage box. No objects can be seen in the direction of the Rand. No matter whether it is with the naked eye or various equipment, it is impossible to see the difference in front. Only the space coordinates displayed on the light curtain of the console are marked with a red dot. The Rand spacecraft entered the red dot, and the Rand in space seemed to have disappeared out of thin air. Leon felt that his body had lost gravity. If it were not under the control of the seat belt, he would leave the ground right now, and the Rand's gravity system would have lost its due effect. At the same time, the picture of the room in front of him cannot be seen clearly, only the shining light spots come into view. Countless shining light spots turned into long lines, and Leon felt that his body seemed to be drawn by something. This force was not strong and could not affect his body. This process lasted for about tens of seconds. His eyes suddenly went black, and then the world he saw with his eyes returned to its original state, and he saw Claire Battle Commander.